Hello everyone, my name is Nitin. I am a SAP Certified Development Professional. I am taking a course on SAP Hybris. In this course, I am covering all the topics of Hybris, starting from the basic to advanced. This is a brief about myself. I work as a senior Hybris developer. This is my email ID, nitin.hybris@gmail.com. You can reach out to me over this email ID in case you have any questions or concerns regarding this topic or regarding this course. Okay, the topic which I'll be covering today is impexes. So in this lecture I will be covering what is an impex, where this impex which we create is used, what is the structure of an impex, impex syntax, modes in impex, and how to import an impex basically. So what is an impex? An impex is a text-based import-export functionality provided by SAP Hybris, which is in the format of. So what is an impex? Impex is a text. What is an impex? Impex is a text-based import-export functionality provided by SAP Hybris, which is in the format of a CSV. So basically, it is a CSV file which is semicolon separated. In that, that file is used by Hybris to import and export data. So this particular file, this impex, so impex stands for import and export. So combinedly, it is termed as impex. So this impex allows the user to create, update, or remove platform items like product, customer, delivery modes, etc. So any item type which we create into Hybris, we can import the data to that particular item type by using impexes. So this impex file uses the .impex extension. So if I need to prepare a products impex, let's say, so I will be naming it as products.impex. So .impex is the extension of a impex file. So where it is used basically. So if we create an impex, what is the use of that impex? We know that it is used for importing and exporting data, but how that importing happens and where that importing comes into the picture. So basically, impexes are used importing any data, be it customer, product, your any item type which you create. In the last video we have created custom component. In that also we used one impex. In the last video we created one cron job. We created triggers for it. For that also we used impex. So any kind of data which you want to import into Hybris, you need to use impexes. Creating backups. So if you have a website running and you need a backup of it, you need the data which is already present into the database, so you want to take backup of certain data. So in that you can use impex, like you will export the data which is present into your Hybris database and you can keep it for your future reference. Migrating data from one SAP system to another. Let's say you are shifting from one SAP system to another. At that point of time also you will need that particular data, for example your customer data, product data, that data you will be needing into your other system also. So in that case you can create the impexes for the existing data and you can run those impexes on the other system, and it will help you migrating that data from one system to another. Importing test data in QA environments. So as we all know, when we work into a project, we have different environments. We work on our local machine, just like what we do in our tutorials. Let's say if we want to move to the QA environment, so the data should be present at the QA environment. By QA I mean the test environment, where the development which we do will be tested. So at that particular environment we will be needing that data. So that data will be imported by impexes only. And let's say you move from QA to pre-production. At that point of time also you will be needing the data. So all that data which you will be needing into your subsequent environments, that will be coming from impexes only. So not only, but impexes is a way to import data. There are other ways also. So for example, hot folder, I have made one video on hot folder also, in which we use CSV files directly to import data into Hybris. So impexes is also a way which we are discussing today. So basically impexes are used to import data, migrating data, creating the backup of the data, likewise. how does an impex look like? So what is the structure of an impex? So impex majorly consists of three parts. First one is the macros, second is impex header, third is the data. So by macros, when I refer to macros, what I mean by macros, I mean this certain data which will be used by your impex in the subsequent lines. So if you define a certain thing which is repeated sometimes, let's say if you are giving a language for your website or for that impex particularly in your website, if you are importing data or into an English language, let's say, so that language equal to English will be used many times in that impex. So what we do is we define a macro for it, that I'll be showing in the next slide how we define a macro. But let's say we define a macro for that language, and that language can be used as a variable in your full impex, in your that particular file which you are going to import. I will show how we define macros in the next slide also. So by macros I mean a variable. If you are writing a Java program, at the top you define a variable, let's say int a equal to 10. So that a can be used as a to get that value, that 10 value which you have defined at the top into your program. So you don't need to write don't need to define a several times. You define it at once and you can reuse it into the full program. So it's like that. You define one macro at the top, and that macro can be used into your impex. Next is impex header. So impex header is a simple line which is semicolon separated. It has the item type for which you want to insert the data. So let's say you have a table of products and it is having certain attributes. So if you want to import the data of the product, so you need to define the data which is need to be imported. So for that you will require the line which will define the columns into of that particular table basically. So impex header will have the item type, that means the table name, for example products table or customer table, XYZ, whatever table it is for which you want to import the data, that item type, semicolon separated its attribute. I'll also show how an impex header looks like into the next slide, sorry. So I'll also show how does an impex header looks like into the next slide. But as of now, just remember that an impex header is nothing but your item type and its attributes separated by semicolon. Next is the data. So data part consists obviously data entries which to be imported. So whatever data you want to import for your item type, that you will be mentioning into the data part. So these three collectively make an impex. So first of all I'll explain macros in detail. So macros is any value that is used multiple times could be defined as a macro. So whatever value you will be using multiple times into your impex, just make a macro of it so that you don't need to write it again and again. It will save time. Next is the impex header. So impex header, as I said, it is a single line defining the mapping of item type and its attributes with the data lines below. So whatever data you want to import, you need to make a header of it so that it can be imported. So if any attribute is given unique equal to true, that means it will be serving as a PK for that model. So whenever we create a table, we create one column which will be distinguishing factor for it. So we'll have one PK for that particular table. One column will be there which will serve as a PK. So in that case, in impexes, if we want to make one column or more than one column to act as a PK for it, the primary key, so in that case what we do is we define unique equal to true for that particular attribute. I will show all these things which I am explaining here. When we create our own impex, we will refer to the same slide and we will prepare our impex side by side. If more than one attributes are having unique equal to true, that means all of the attributes serving as PK collectively, which we call as composite key. So if you have one column unique equal to true, that means it will be serving as a PK. If you have more than one column, those collectively will be serving as a pk for that particular table, for particular item type. Now the data lines is the lines containing semicolon separated data with respect to the header. So if you are importing certain data, the data which you will be giving below should be as per the header which you have mentioned at the top. So you cannot import let's say if you want to import the name of the product, you cannot you cannot give the data of sizes in the name, so that will be data discrepancy. So you need to align your data also with respect to your header. So how does an impex look like when we create it? So this is how a simple impex looks like for inserting products into your database. So this yellow part which we are seeing here is the macros, the green part is the header, and the blue one is your data. So as I said, macro are the act as a variable basically. So product catalog. So how we define a macro? So for defining a macro, what we need to do is we need to place a dollar sign in front of it and write the name of that attribute, macro basically. So dollar product catalog, I can give any name here. I can give my product catalog, let's say. So this will serve as a variable name. It is similar to a, which we have defined into a Java program, int a. So that a is nothing but the name of your macro, and equal to this is the value, electronics product catalog. So this is the value of that macro. If you can say it as a equal to 10. So 10 is your electronics product catalog, and a is your dollar product catalog. So whenever you want to use electronics product catalog, you can directly call dollar product catalog in your impex, and it will serve as your at that it will give you this particular value. So similarly, dollar product catalog name, so this is also a macro, product catalog name, electronics product catalog, this is the value, dollar catalog version. So catalog version bracket, this is how we define one catalog version for it. So how we are defining it, we are giving the catalog ID default equal to dollar product catalog. So if you can see here, we have used dollar product catalog here. So this dollar product catalog is nothing but the macro which we have defined at the top. So if I read it, it is defining one more macro. So it is defining one more macro, catalog version, by using the existing macro which we have defined at the top. So this is how we define the catalog version, catalog ID. In the ID we need to give the product catalog which we are, or the content catalog also, whatever catalog we want to import, we want to give here, we give the ID of it, and the comma, and after this comma we give the version of it. So version is either online or state, and unique equal to true. As I said, it is the modifier here which we give to act it as a PK, and default equal to dollar product catalog. This is our this is also our macro which we have used again in this particular defining this macro. So the whole point of this explanation is that we can define one macro and we can use it several times into our impex instead of defining electronics product catalog everything. Okay, so dollar super categories. So this is also a macro in this which we are defining. What we are defining is super categories by code and the catalog version. So whenever we will give the super categories data, we will be defining the code of that particular category, and this catalog version will be automatically picked from the macro here. So when you will be giving the super categories into your data, that will at that time you just need to give the code and the catalog version will be picked from here. Dollar base product again. So if you use the dollar base product macro, you need to give the code of it, catalog version will be picked from the macro. Approved, dollar approved. So whenever you will be giving the data for approved, whether the approval status is checked, approved or unapproved, at that time also you can use this particular macro. Why I have written this? So that I can pass one default value to that particular attribute. That is why I have given default equal to check. So default equal to check means whenever I use dollar approved as the macro, it will give the approval status default as check. But if I mention something in the code, it will override this particular default value. Okay, so this was the explanation regarding the macro. It seems a little bit complex, but if you read it and if you define it on your own, you will get to know that it's not that much complex. Only in the explanation part it seems like very complex, but it's not. It's just defining one variable which we are going to use several times into our impex. So you can create a macro of anything which you want. Insert products. So this is a comment here. So whenever you want to define certain comments into an impex, you just need to put this hash sign in front of it and you can write anything in this particular line. But if you go to the next line, again you need to give the hash so that it can be treated as a comment. So these are the comments. This is how we can define comments into impex. So whatever you write into this after this hash, it gets ignored while you import the impex. This line will be skipped. Okay, so insert update product. So this is our header. So now I will be describing this header. So in the header we will give what is the mode of the impex which we want to import, whether we want to use the update, insert update, or insert mode. That way I will be explaining in the next slide. But for now, this is the mode of the impex. This is the item type which we want to import. So if you create XYZ whatever item type of your own, you need to give that item type name here, which you give into the qualifier of an item type. After that, semicolon. There is no semicolon between the mode and the item type. After that, this semicolon, you will be defining all the attributes which you need to import, for which you need to import the data basically. So if I want to import the code of the product, then I'll give code here. I will give the super category. I will give the manufacturer name. Let's say I don't want to give manufacturer ID, so I can eliminate this one, and instead of this one I will be writing unit and so on. So whatever data you want to import, you can give semicolon and that the attribute, again semicolon, then the attribute, again semicolon, and then the attribute. So this is how the simple header looks like. Also, as I mentioned, unique equal to true here. So unique equal to true is serving as a primary key for code. So sorry, as I said in the previous slide, we use unique equal to true to define one attribute as a primary key. So when I am defining this product, when I will be importing the data for this product, I am saying that this code will serve as the primary key for this product. So if I give similar code again, it will override it. It will override, either it will give some error, whatever it will do, that we will be covering into the next slide. But as of now, this will be serving as the primary key for this particular table. If I define, let's say, manufacturer name also unique equal to true, then the combination of code and manufacturer name will serve as the primary key. So you can have more than one unique attributes into a particular table which will serve as a primary key. Next, the blue part is the data which we need to import, and as I said, the data should be aligned with the header. So if I talk about this product, so after this product we will be putting one semicolon at the starting. We will put semicolon, and from this we will be giving the first attribute value. So I am giving 23191. This 23191 is nothing but the code. This code. Just a second. I'll use the pen instead so that we can. So this is the code. This 319 1288 comma brand 5. What is this? This is the super category. Since here in the super categories, here we have mentioned that we will be giving the code of the super category. So we have given the super categories, and since this super category is of type collection, so we are giving comma separated categories. So 1288, this is one category, brand 5 is one category. Let's say there is another category XYZ, so that it will also come as comma separated. It depends upon the attribute type. So the super category attribute in the product is of list, is of collection basically, so we are giving comma separated values. So this particular column will serve as super categories. from this semicolon to this semicolon, whatever you will give in between, this will serve as the super category. Okay, next is the manufacturer name. So Sony here is is representing the manufacturer name. So after this semicolon we give Sony, then we will put another semicolon and we will give manufacturer AID. So manufacturer AID is ACCCSPW. So this is representing the manufacturer AID, and then pieces is like it's representing the unit. So pieces is the unit, and after that I have given one semicolon but no value. So since I have given no value here, so EAN will be there but the value will be going as null. So this will be a null value after EAN. So once I open this product, so I will have all the data except the EAN. So EAN will be null. So this is how a particular macro, header and the data looks like into an impex. So this was an overview. So in the next slide we will be covering this in detail. Okay, so impex syntax I will explain it again. Macros are this look like this: $catalog equal to catalog ID, $catalog version. Whatever macro you want to create, you just prefix one $sign in front of it, equal to, and the value of it. You can use the particular macro like this into a header. So macros will always be used into header. So like this super category which we have used, this is a macro. Likewise, if I define one more macro, let's say catalog version here, so I have used catalog $catalog, which I have defined here, into defining another macro, and this macro I have used into my header. Next, a header should have the following matter. So a header should have the mode. As I said, mode is the what you want to do with that particular item type, whether you want to update it, whether you want to insert it, you remove it, whatever you want to do with it. Next is the type. Type means the item type which we want to import, like the product. Next comes the attributes. So attributes describe which item attributes the column are mapped to. So this item type is having these attributes, so I have defined it by separating them with a semicolon. So these are the attributes. Next is the modifier. Modifier gives the additional information for translating a value record to the map type attribute. So modifier gives next is modifier. Modifier gives additional information for translating a value record to the mapped type attribute. So since if you have seen in the beginning, this is the part 1 of impexes. I will be dividing this video into two parts. First part will be having this topic, and second part will have certain topics which I will be giving into the last of this video, in the end of this video. So comments starts with dash, hash, and ignored during the import. So this means this is a simple comment. So whatever you will write into the comments will get ignored. So this was all about syntax of an impex. Next is modes in impex. So in modes, what all comes into the mode. So by mode I mean whatever you want to do with your impex for that particular item type, whether you want to insert, whether you want to update, whether you want to insert update. So all these things will come into mode. So first of all we will cover insert. So when you write insert in front of a particular item type here, so what does that mean? So when you write insert, it means create an item type in SAP Hybris Commerce for that particular processed value line. So that means if you write insert in front of it, what it will do, it will insert that attribute if it doesn't exist. So what it does, if impex does not check if an item type with the same attribute already exists or not. So when you use insert in front of your header, so at that time it will create a new item if it doesn't exist, but it will not check for that particular item type, so of that particular code. So what it will do when we write insert, what it will do, it will go and insert this product by this code, this unique attribute, but it will not check whether it already exists or not. It will try to directly insert. Trying to insert an item type with a code that already exists may throw an exception caused by the SAP Commerce core. So if you try to import if you try to insert a product which is already existing by this code 23191, you will get an error. Next, for this reason, it is recommended to use unique equal to unique modifier, where impex pre-checks a violation of the attribute uniqueness. So if you don't write unique equal to true here, it will not check and it will give you an error. So instead, always use unique equal to true while inserting a particular data for a item type. So this unique equal to true have a great significance while defining the attribute as a primary key. So that is why we need to always mention what are the attributes we will be treating as primary key. So when we write insert, it will not check whether the item type with the same attribute exists or not, and it will try to create a new item type. If it already exists, it will give you an error. Update. So as the name says, selects an item type as per the unique attribute. So if I write update only here, I will explain this also into an impex, but for now I'm just giving you theoretical knowledge so that when we try to create our impex, we don't need to again read all this. So when we do the update, so what it will check is what are the attributes which are having unique basically, which are the key attributes. In other words, we say it as key attributes. So all the attributes which is having unique equal to true in front of them will be acting as a key attributes. So update, if there is no item type matches with the key attributes, the value line cannot be resolved. So if you want to update a certain item type, certain product, certain data which doesn't exist into a system, then obviously it will give you an error. You are trying to update something which doesn't exist into the system. So if it doesn't find it, it will say value line cannot be resolved. Also note that the default value of the attribute is null. As I said, the default value of an attribute will be null, because if you don't give any value to a particular attribute, it will set null value to it. So for that, there are certain solutions. So I'll explain what is the problem with that update. When we use update, what issues we face. So for that, I have written it in the notepad. Let's say, so what is the problem with that update? So if I try to update one user by the user ID, name and the customer ID. So this is my mode, this is my item type, these are my attributes. Here I have mentioned unique equal to true. I'm trying to import one N Kumar. This is my user ID for the user. Nitin Kumar is the name, and I haven't given any customer ID here. So once I import this impex, what it will do is it will set the null value to customer ID first. Again, what I'm doing again is I'm updating the same user basically with passing name as null here. I am not passing any value here and giving the customer ID. So in this case, this will be ignored and this will get imported. So once it imports, what it will do is it will give me only the customer ID, but it will set name as null. So this is the problem with update. Once you start importing data by using update, it will take all the values which are not present as null. Next, put all the values in single line. So these are the solution. First one is that you can put all the data which you want to import into a single line. So if you want to update user, so you just put the user ID, give the name, semicolon, and the customer ID also. So whatever data you want to import, just give it correctly and you will be able to import it. Next, if you next solution is if you want to again use update and you want to have both the values. So for that, what you need to do is you need to give the name and the customer ID, so that you can do re-specify all the values that have been set in the prior line. So already I have set Nitin Kumar as the name. But again, if I'm importing it, I need to give the name, and again I need to give the customer ID, so that it has all both the values. Next, use individual headers. So what we can do is we can use individual headers. Like in the first line I am importing the name only, in the second line I am importing customer ID only. So by only I mean I'm not giving the attribute customer ID here, and I'm not giving name here. So in this case, what it will happen, what it will do is it will search for this UID and Kumar, and it will update the name as this. And in this next line it will search for the NA Kumar user again, and it will update the customer ID only. So these are the possible solution if you want to import the correct data. So whenever you use import, just keep in mind the best solution is providing all the values which you want to import. If you don't want to update this value, just don't give the attribute also here. So if you don't like give the value, it will set it to null. So just keep in mind while using update. Okay. So these are the problems which I have mentioned already. Next is the insert update. So what it will do is, as its name suggests, it will combine insert and update header modes. So if an item already exists, it will update it. If it doesn't exist, it will insert it. Simple. So if no item exists that matches with the combination of all the key attributes, the value lines is used to create the item. If it already exists, it will update it will update it. The Hybris impex extension always use this order: update then insert. So it will search for that particular item type. If it sorry, not item type, it will search for that particular uh, data. If it already exists, it will update it. If it doesn't exist, it will insert it while you use insert update. So in our example we use insert update. So what it will do, it will search for this particular product 23191. If it exists, good, it will it will update the values. If it doesn't exist, it will create a new product with these values. So it's very simple. So most of the time we use insert update if you want to create and update the data at the same time. Next is the remove mode. Remove mode, as the name suggests, it will, as in update, it will check if it already exists or not. If it exists, it will remove it. If it doesn't exist, it will say that the such item does not exist, because you are trying to delete something which doesn't exist. So it's very simple. So update and remove are a little bit simple, but insert update is the best way to insert data, basically, if you want to insert and update both. Okay, so let's create and test our impacts. So how we create an impact? Now all the knowledge which we have gained into these particular slides, we will be using this knowledge, and we will be creating one impacts which will import the product. Okay, so for that what we need to do is, this is the impacts which I have created. I have defined certain macros. Product catalog, I have given the value. Product catalog name, I have given the value. Catalog version, I have given the values, and also I have used already existing macros also in this particular line. Super categories I have used this product, approved macro. So these are the macros. So I will be attaching this impacts into the description also, so that you can check it. These are the different modes. So what we will do is, we will try to use these different modes. So right now I have commented all the values. So if you can see, I have put hash in front of all the lines. So if I import it, nothing will happen. Okay, so how we import an impacts, that is also a question. Open HSE. Go to console, select the impacts import. Whatever impacts you create, copy it, paste it into here, and click on import content. So since I have commented all the lines, it will import nothing. Although it will run, it will not throw any error, but still it will not do anything because all the lines are commented. Okay, so let's test the insert mode first. So this is the product which is which I need to insert. So what I'll do is I'll uncomment this line and I will insert this product here. So what do you think? It should give an error because this product is existing into my system. So what I will do, I'll open the back office and I'll show this particular product, and it is on my website also. Okay, so this is the product which we are playing with basically. So it exists into my system. So as per our definition of insert, if I try to insert something which already exists, it will give me an error. So if I try to insert it, it gave me an error that item exists. So if this item doesn't exist, let's put some other number here, 3505, let's make it 39 and import it. So I have just pasted it and click on import content. So now this product which I have imported, let's check it into the system if it is being created or not. For that, what you need to do is we just need to open the back office and we can search that product from there. Why I am not searching this product here into the website? Because it doesn't have all the data which is required to show it on the website. That is why. So to search a product, go to the left menu, search for product here, click on products, close this message, open this advanced search, put your article number here. See, this is the product which we have created recently while importing that impex. So let's check the data which we have imported by using insert. First of all, let's check the time, creation time for this particular product. So it's 26 May 2021, 11:37:46. This is the time created, and I believe it is the same time when we imported this impex. It's 11:39 p.m. here. Okay, so first thing we have checked that this product is recently created by our this impex which we have run. We have imported certain values, certain data to it. So let's check for first the super categories. So for categories, I will go to the category system for this particular. So right now what I'm doing is I'm checking the data which I have inserted, whether it is correct or not. So I have given two categories here, 576 and brand 88. So 576 and brand 88. So these two super categories are imported. Okay. Next I have given manufacturer name. So for manufacturer name, I need to search for it. Okay, so manufacturer name is coming into the extended attributes. So I've given Kodak as this manufacturer name. So manufacturer name is Kodak. Manufacturer AID is 139328, something like this. This is the manufacturer AID. This is the EN which we have provided, and unit is pieces. So for unit also we need to check where the unit will show. Here, unit pieces. So whatever data I have provided, it is inserted for this particular new product which we have recently created by using insert. So what we have learned here is we used one existing product as a unique as a code for importing it, and we got an error because we were trying to insert something which was already into the system, into the database. Okay, I will comment this line because I don't need to import this line now anymore. Now we'll come to the update part. So for that I will go to this product now, which is already existing, because I'm trying to import something which already exists into the system. I'm opening the stage version because I have given stage here into my product catalog version. Okay, let's check something and then we will try to update it. Let's check the manufacturer name, let's say. So manufacturer name here is Kodak, which is already existing. Now we will update it. Let's make it instead of Kodak, let's make it as Sony. Okay. I will import this impex again. So if you note, I am pasting all the lines, but since these lines are commented, these will be ignored. Okay, so the import is successful. Let's check our data which we have imported by using update. So if you see here, when I refresh this, this is the manufacturer name now. Earlier it was Kodak, now it is Sony, and we will check the modified time of this item type of this product basically. So it's 11:42:38. So this is the time when we run the impacts. So the time created was March 16, 2021. That at that time this product was created, but since we have run the update impacts, it is updated and the time modified is 11:42:38 p.m. So we have tested the update also, in which we learned that it will update certain product if it already exists. Let's say if I put some random value here, so definitely this product should not exist into our system, I believe. So I will search for this product. Okay. So I am not able to find this product. Let's try to update it. So we are updating something which doesn't exist into our system. So imported. No existing item found this or this. Or we did not find this particular item, existing item type, because we have given certain code which doesn't exist. So this was for product code. Let's say if I give any attribute which doesn't exist, so manufacturer name exists, but so let's say I give maker name for instance, so this attribute doesn't exist into product. Okay, now I'll try to import this or update this. So I am importing one attribute which doesn't exist into the product model. Unknown attribute maker name into the header. Okay, so this was the error which was thrown. So this is how the header comes into the picture. It will check it will validate whether you have given the correct attributes or not for that particular item type. Now we are trying to check for insert update. So again I am trying to insert update for this particular product. Now this product, let's check whether it exists or not into our system. Oh, I always forget this. Okay, so this item doesn't exist basically, which I am trying to import. Let's import it by using insert update. So if something doesn't exist and you want to create it, you use insert update. So it will combine the operations of insert and update basically. Now if I search for this, it is created. Now let's check the creation time. It should be 11:46 something. Okay, 11:45:52. So it is just created. So once we run the impex by using insert update, it is created. Now let's again update this name from Kodak to, let's say, Apple, for example. So this is I'm updating again, but I'm using insert update here. It should not throw any error because item already exists into the system, first of all. Secondly, it is updating the existing item. So let's check the manufacturer name now. So it should come Apple here. So our item is updated although it was existing. Okay, so item is updated, item was inserted also while we use insert update. I want to remove this let's say this new item type which I created. So instead of insert update, you will give remove as the identifier, import it, and once the import is successful, okay, so it's successful, I will try to search for this particular product again. I should not find it now. Yes, so it's saying unable to load because it is the item not found here, because we have run the remove impex. Okay, so we have tested all the modes which were present into impexes. We have used insert, update and remove. So this is related to the modes of impex, modes in impex. So we have tested our impex also. Now I will share something that how we read an impex. So once you try to create an impex, what you need to do is we need to mention the item type. So this item type is nothing but the table for which you want to insert the data. So let's say we have created this product item type. This item type will have certain attributes, and that attributes we need to give into the header, and for that attribute we need to import the data. How it looks like? So it looks like this yellow part is your item type, and these are your columns, and by column I mean the attributes. So if you want to import the data, leave this column, put the code, let's say 1 2 3, name as product, let's say camera, en 1 2 3 4, whatever you want to give, manufacturer Sony. So this is how your data looks like. When you try to import an impex, it will search for this particular table with these attributes and this data. So this is how the structure of an impex looks like when we see it in a table format. Also, how we read an impex. So for that, what I have done is I have written all the data in all the semicolon separated data into an Excel file, and I will also show how you can also do that. So if you want to read any impex, you can use this technique to segregate your data and read it a little bit easier. So what we need to check here, this is the insert update product. After that we have this code, super categories, manufacturer name. These are all separated into certain columns. So code is having this value, super categories is having this value, Kodak is the manufacturer name, like this. So you can change this particular impex into this table format also, and you can save it. Once you open it into notepad, it will give you an impex. So I'll show how I did it. Let's create a new file. What you need to do is select the impex which you want to read, paste it. So if you see here, it is coming into one column, there is no data into some other columns. Here we need to keep it into different columns. For that, what you need to do is select it from here, go to data, text to columns, select delimited. Next, instead of tab or whatever, you just use semicolon because your file is semicolon separated. Next, select this particular column. You can use text here so that all the values such as the en everything should come into the text format instead of truncating. Click on finish. So once you click on finish, what it will do is it will give you different columns for particular attributes. See, like this. So this is how your impex look like. So you can read it properly now. You can see what column is having what value, just for reading purposes. So you can apply your filters also as we do into normal Excel files. So let's say if I have only one impex, I don't have this data. This one also. Okay. So I have a number of products. Let's say these are my product value. Again. So you can directly filter your data also using these filters. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to work with impexes if you use this Excel trick basically. It is not a trick, most of you might be knowing it. This is what I used when I want to create a bigger impex, because it makes it easier to copy and paste the data from one place to another. Okay, so this was regarding the impexes. In the part 2 of this video, what I will be covering is translator, decorators, and the attribute modes in impex. So we have 3 things left into impexes that I will be covering into the second part. Okay, so this is my email ID, nitin.hybris@gmail.com. You can reach out to me over this email ID if in case you have any questions or concerns. Thank you and have a nice day.